Hey, we're going to get started, okay? And we're going to discuss the Federalist papers that I assigned you over the weekend, okay? And hopefully you did as I asked and read those and have something worthwhile to add to a discussion today on that, okay? Obviously, guys, you've got Hamilton, Madison, and Jay. We'll get into these and start with Federalist number 1 by Alexander Hamilton. Okay, so I'll just throw it out there to you guys. Anything jump out? This obviously this is the first paper. Yeah. You thought what made it terrible?
It didn't seem like it was the most well written, like clear as some of the others.
Okay. Not very clear. I mean, some of the language he uses analogies or what's the other term I'm looking for there? Metaphors. Yes, a lot of metaphors. And if you can't read into that, then it's hard to understand what the heck he's talking about. Yeah. What's that? Okay, he's kind of abrasive, is he not? Yes. Yeah. Well, tell me where you are. Uh-huh. Okay. Right. So he's realistic. He's abrasive. I like in the third paragraph where he calls people out. So if you look at the third paragraph, he says, among the most formidable of the obstacles of which the new Constitution will have to encounter may readily be distinguished as the obvious interest of a certain class of men in every state to resist all changes which may hazard a diminution of power. Okay, now remember, we're using an Articles of Confederation. Where does the power lie? At the state level, right? And so then he goes on, he says, emulate and consequences of the offices they hold under state establishments and the perverted ambition of another class of men will hope to either aggrandize themselves by the confusions of their country, which benefit from the chaos that is going on, okay, or flatter themselves with fairer prospects of elevation from the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies. So yeah, he's really calling out those people in the state governments that are resisting this, saying that they're being selfish. They want to hold on to their power, even though it's not just what's for everybody. Yeah.
What is aggrandize?
Aggrandize. Yeah. Embellish, aggrandize, and like when people exaggerate, kind of like that. Okay, and then he does this again. Now, if you look at the second paragraph on this next page, this is where he really gets into some of these analogies here. It will be forgotten. It'll be forgotten on the one hand, the jealousy is the usual contaminant. Would that be contaminant? Contaminant of violent love. Jealousy is a violent love, and the noble enthusiasm of liberty is too apt to be infected with a spirit of narrow and illiberal distrust. On the other hand, it will be equally forgotten that the vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty, and that the contemplation of a sound and well-informed judgment, their interests can never be separated, and that a dangerous ambition more often lurks behind a specious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidding appearance of zeal for the firmness and efficiency of government. So I think what he's trying to say there is that the people that are claiming that we're doing this to protect our rights, he's trying to explain that, well, you need government to help protect your rights. That government won't be a threat to your rights, but they'll actually, you need that. Because if we fall into chaos, then your rights are in jeopardy. Be able to get that out of that? I think, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, and then he goes on at the end, hey, I propose a series of papers to discuss these issues. Yes. And so it's setting a tone. It's kind of a harsh tone. And yes, if you were reading this under the pen name Publius, and you had read Alexander Hamilton before, you might be able to figure out who this is. You know what I mean? Like, educated people kind of would be able to figure out that this was Hamilton, right? Yes? Okay. Then we get the only one with John Jay. And guys, the whole paper is longer than this, okay? It's not just a paragraph. But this kind of summarizes the whole, thesis of his essay, which is what?
Government's necessary.
Okay, government's necessary. Now, in what we studied, what is he describing in what we studied to this point? No, surrendering certain liberties, not your natural rights. Yes. Yes. This bleeds social contract, right? That we give up some of our liberties in order to form a government that protects people, okay? Protects their rights, their natural rights. Right? Yeah, it's right there in the second paragraph. The people must cede into some of their natural rights in order to, you're right, Lily, to vest it with the requisite powers. It's well worthy of consideration, therefore, that we would conduce more to the interests of the people of America than they should, to all general purposes under one nation, under one federal government, that should divide themselves into separate confederacies and so forth. Okay. All right, good. So John Jay is just backing up this idea that we need a stronger central government. We need a new social contract. Okay. All right. So number 10, Federalist 10 by Madison. Okay. This is probably the most famous of the 85 essays, guys. Okay, and this Madison writes quite eloquently, does he not?
Spells federal wrong.
So, what's he talking about in Federalist? What's the main topic?
2 methods of curing this of a faction.
Okay, factions is the topic, yes? Okay, so by reading this, what do you think a faction is? Back here. What's a faction? Okay. 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 All right. So what would you call that today? Okay, a lot of people would say political party. And certainly they are factions. Okay? But I think when you dig down a little deeper, there's another term we use today here as factions. Interest groups. Okay, or as the media might refer to them as special interests. Okay? Let me give you an example. This is a faction. This is an interest group. Yes? Let me give you another one. Not the National Recovery Administration. The National Rifle Association. Not insurance.
American
Association.
role play.
Retired Peoples. Okay? This is one of the most powerful interest groups there is the AARP and the NRA. I'll give you another one.
I'm not good at it. PETA.
I hate PETA.
People accept the aristocrats.
People for the ethical
Treatment of
treatment of animals.
PETA's good.
PETA. Okay?
Thinks they're good.
No, PETA's good. People.
Sierra Club.
Oh, it's fine.
This is one of the largest environmental groups in the United States.
Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Club.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, they sound like a bunch of cows. Give us more acronyms.
There's more. There's more.
Yes.
Big.
Bang theory.
Beef.
Big B.
Vegetarian.
Cattle ranchers of America. Okay? Hey, these interest groups, some of them you're going to agree with, some of them you're not. Okay? It's a little bit more radical environmental group called Greenpeace. Now, all of these groups raise what?
Money.
And these groups hire people to go to Washington, D.C. or Topeka, Kansas, where a capital is, to what?
Get money.
Lobby. To lobby members of Congress to pass legislation that is favorable to them. Now, these interest groups or special interests, okay, are they looking out for you?
No. Their cause.
If you agree.
Well, if you agree with them, they are. If they disagree with you, they're not. Right? So, you've got these interest groups, okay? And then you have over here
They have money. Oh, I thought you. I thought
Do you really think I'm
I
not
didn't
stupid?
see his face. I
We
just
can
heard
do
it.
sometimes,
I was like,
Alan, actually.
Oh, which one's the other one? He's dead, isn't he? His brother. I thought his brother died.
Charles is alive. He's the last one.
Which one's the other one? Who's the other one?
There's three brothers,
Oh, I-
Bill, and I forget the other one. David. Thank you. Now listen, these people have lots of money that they can spend, okay, to help get candidates elected. Which, once they help get candidates elected, will hopefully promote legislation that's favorable to their businesses. Yes? Okay. Now, if you want to compete against these guys, you can join one of these guys. Okay? This has 5 million members. How much does it cost to become an annual member of the NRA?
$20.
$25 to become an annual member. Okay? Now you multiply 25 times 5 million. That's a lot of money. Okay? And then you have people that buy lifetime memberships and stuff like that. Okay? The AARP has more members than the NRA. You have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is another interest group. Okay, and they have millions of members. These are some of the most powerful lobbying and interest groups in the country. And Madison talks about these as factions. Now, as you guys know, some people think this is the biggest problem with Washington, D.C., is there's too much money. In 2008, Barack Obama broke a threshold that no candidate had ever broken before. That is, he raised $1 billion to run for president. $1 billion. Okay? Now, when he got into office, did he take into consideration how he governed based on the amount of money that people contributed to his campaign?
Yes.
That's what we don't know for sure, right? And when you're talking about members of Congress, especially, they make the laws, okay? But when you become the nominee of the Republican or Democratic Party, you're going to get lots of money. Because that party wants you to defeat the other party. You know what I mean? But it's when you're running for the primary. You know what I mean? Like you're running against other Republicans or you're running against other Democrats. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to win the nomination for your party. Are you following me here?
Yes.
Okay, before the general election. That's the really important money. Because you can't win the nomination without that money. Once you get the nomination, the money's gonna come. Did I really like John McCain as a Republican when he ran for president? No. Okay. Did I send him money and want him to win? Yes. Okay. No, he lost. He ran against Obama
Oh,
in 2008.
sorry, I wasn't.
No, it's okay. Sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to jump at you. Okay. But you know what? You follow me? So the perception is that if they're getting money from these groups, okay, they are going to legislate based on who gave them money. Okay. And to say that is the truth is hard to do because now, listen, if I want strict gun control laws, okay, and I want to actually I want to get rid of handguns. I'm okay with people that keep shotguns and rifles to hunt with and stuff, but I want to get rid of handguns. Do you think I'm going to receive a penny from the NRA?
No.
I will not. Now, if I believe in the Second Amendment strongly and believe that your right to defend yourself with a handgun shall not be infringed by government, do you think I have a chance of getting the NRA to give me some money?
Yeah.
Yes. So are they buying a vote or are they just helping to elect somebody that thinks like they do? Are you following me? Because there's a difference in buying a vote and helping somebody get elected with the same beliefs that you have. There is a difference, isn't there? Now, so these factions lead to all this money coming in and the perception that Congress is owned by these special interest groups. That they only listen to them, they don't care what the people say. You follow me? Okay. Now, what has happened because of some of the laws that we now have these things. Anyone? Political action committees. Okay. Now, this is where you and I, we could form our own PAC. It'd be a 501c3. You know what that is?
Oh, it's a type of nonprofit.
Right.
My dad said you make it.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit. Okay. Now I'm going to be in charge of our PAC, Mr. Ebright's Fifth Hour Honors Government PAC. Okay. Now, what you all got to do is go out and raise $100,000. Okay. Now, you're all on the board. Okay. So we're going to pay everybody a good salary, including me since I head the PAC. Okay. And you're all on the board. So you all make $50,000. You raise 100. You keep 50 for yourself. Okay. That's your salary. Then the rest of the money we'll use to help politicians get elected that support our cause. What's our cause? Now, we gotta be in agreement, because we got Ruby in here too, so we all gotta be in agreement. We got some moderates in here, okay? We all gotta be in agreement. So what's gonna be our cost? That we can all agree on.
Stop buying cheese from other nations.
And the water.
Only domestic.
Yeah, only domestic cheese.
Only domestic.
Only domestic cheese.
No.
Only domestic.
No.
Only domestic.
Are you kidding? Swiss cheese?
Nope.
You can make it.
Oh,
Love
wait,
Swiss cheese.
yeah, actually, let's go mozzarella, so we're not, mozzarella.
I got plenty of cheddar.
Yeah, Italian cheese. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's, look, I kind of went backwards on this, so I started with this, so we got into discussion. So let's see what Madison says here. Okay, so second paragraph. By a faction, I understand a number of citizens, whether accounting to a majority or minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse or passion or interest, adverse to the rights of other citizens or to the permanent and aggregate effects of interests of the community. Excuse me. There are two methods of curing the mischiefs of faction. The one by removing its causes, the other by controlling its effects. Again, there are two methods of removing the causes of faction. The one by destroying the liberty which is essential to its existence. Okay, so how do we deal with this? Interest groups, this money, we don't allow it. We destroy the liberty. Okay, now, you guys know about freedom of speech, right? Now, burning the American flag in protest is freedom of speech. It is a form of expression of speech. It's an action, okay, of burning the flag in protest, okay, which is protected by the First Amendment. Okay, now I can't burn it in the classroom because I'm putting you in danger. You know, like I could start a fire that burns down the school, okay, but I could do it outside. Follow me?
Yes.
Okay, so that's protected. So when I give $20 to an interest group or to a candidate that I support, that is an extension of what? Speech. Following me? And to destroy my ability to support Kansans for Life or the NRA. Now, there's something I think everybody up here can agree with, right? So wherever you're going to give this money, that is an extension of speech. Now, where do we find this? Well, in the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, of just a few years ago, there was a big debate over all this money in our campaigns. And the Democrats wanted to limit how much money you could give, which certain groups could give. Okay? Now you guys know labor unions, right?
Yeah.
Okay? And Ruby, we've been talking a lot about that, but in history, but the unions raise money to give to candidates too, okay? What about corporations? Can Microsoft give as much money as it wants to a political campaign? They can now. So Citizens United decision said this. It said corporations are made up of people. And so for that reason, corporations can give money to political campaigns. Okay? There are some laws that restrict how much money you can give. It's all framed in certain language. Okay? So like these PACs are 501c3s because they're educational. They educate voters on issues. Follow me? So like these things, they can run advertising and so forth. They cannot promote a specific candidate. But what they can do is criticize a specific candidate. You know what I mean? They can't endorse someone, but they can criticize someone and their policies. Follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's educational. It's not promoting a specific candidate.
Wait, hold on,
This leads to negativity in advertising.
So you can say bad things about someone, but you can't say good things about
Right, you can't
why do they
endorse a
always say
candidate.
this ad was like approved by?
Yeah, and it just depends on which group, whether it's a PAC or an interest group. Those are different. I know, it's called campaign finance law, and you gotta be very careful with it, okay? But what you can't do is limit people.
Office, drop out, pocket it.
Okay, you with me here? So destroying the liberty which is essential to existence. So not allow any of this, which violates the First Amendment, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. You with me? It destroys that liberty, okay? Or by giving every citizen the same opinions, the same passions, and the same interests. Now, how can we do that?
That sounds.
Censorship.
This is what the Nazis did with their curriculum, right? Every teacher has to teach the exact same thing, and we indoctrinate the students all to believe the exact same thing, and you get rid of people that have different opinions, like the Chinese did during the Cultural Revolution. And then we can have everybody think the exact same way, and we won't have factions.
Wait. Why does that sound like that's what I was saying?
Are you with?
Why does that sound like public school system?
Well, when you hear things like Common Core, okay, as an educational system, now Common Core is not that, okay? Common Core is stupid, especially when it comes to math, okay? But Common Core, the book review that you guys are doing for this class, having you guys read a book and write about it and analyze it, that's Common Core. Okay, I mean, a lot of teachers do it anyway. It's just now there's a name for it. But listen, you guys gonna learn calculus on your own? Yeah, book. Sometimes you need help, right? You need it explained. Yes? Okay. Now, hopefully, based on what you guys did reading over the weekend, okay, you understood some of this. Hopefully, by having this discussion, I'm helping you to understand it better, not worse. Okay, so, all right, so let's continue here. It can never be more truly said of the first remedy that is worse than the disease. To take away people's liberty is worse than having these factions. Okay? Liberty is to faction what air is to fire, an ailment without which it instantly expires. But it could not be less folly to abolish liberty, which is essential to political life, because it nourishes faction than it would to wish annihilation of air, which is essential to animal life, because it imparts to fire its destructive agency. Okay, smart? Yes? The second expedient is as impracticable as the first would be unwise, as long as the reason of man continues fallible, and he is at liberty to exercise it, different opinions will be formed. Holy cow, we're allowed that? Different opinions? Not on Twitter, but or Facebook or YouTube, they'll take you down. As long as the connection subsists between his reason and his self-love, his opinions and his passions, we will have reciprocal influence on each other. The inference to which we are brought is that the causes of faction cannot be removed, and that relief is only sought by the means of controlling its effects. Okay, so factions are going to exist. This money is going to exist. It's going to get worse. Okay, but what we have to do as citizens, guys, we have to join these groups that support what we believe. Okay, and 5 million people with $25 a piece goes a long way. Yeah, I know you can't compete with these folks here, guys, but 5 million of us can. You follow me? Can we? Sure we can. So, and he goes on about how this relief takes place. I mean, it takes place through the democratic process through Republican government, through representative government. Now, guys, sometimes the majority's always going to win. Okay, and sometimes these factions are of a majority, and sometimes they are of a minority. And usually, these minority factions will just be defeated through the Republican process. Okay, when majority factions take place, then it's going to happen, and then time will tell whether that opinion of that faction has value or not. And if it doesn't have value, then people's opinions will change. So this is a lesson that's very important for us to learn, because a lot of people tune out of politics because of this. All the money, all the fighting, all that stuff, okay? Each of us have issues that are important to us, right? Like I'm like, my big thing when I look at candidates is, are they going to help our economy grow? If our economy is growing, a lot of the problems we have socially will go away. Yeah, things will be better for everybody if the economy is strong, if there are good jobs to be had. Okay, so for me, I vote with that. I vote with the pocketbook issues. Okay, some people, the social issues are important. For some people, they think that climate change is the biggest, most pressing issue, so they focus on that. Okay, so we all have beliefs that we're going to support. Okay, and then as a government, we have to find solutions and compromise to address those issues. Okay, but he's just letting us know, guys, this is going to be ugly. But do not destroy that ugliness, because destroying it is worse than the ugliness is to begin with. What's up with all the noise? You too. Somebody's making noise over here too. Just, do you want to throw it away?
I finished.
Okay.
Yeah, that one I was thinking all that
Any-
crumpled up.
Anything to add on that? Anybody? Okay. Faction. All right. Federalist number 51, James Madison.
3 branches of powers.
Okay, 3 branches.
Powerful.
What? Say that again, Lily?
Judiciary being the least threatening.
Okay, the weakest.
Oh, maybe that was the other one.
That's not that one.
Oh, just kidding.
78.
Somebody talk to me about 54.
Oh, how
51.
all
51.
they need to be dependent. Yeah, they need to be independent of each other, so they need laws to protect.
Okay, so what you're talking about is the principle of what? Separation of powers, okay? And there's a difference, guys, between separation of powers and what?
Checks and balances.
Which is addressed in which paper? Is it addressed in this paper? 51? It's in this paper. Okay. This is where he goes in and starts talking about angels, right?
Yes. Federal angels, no government would be necessary.
This was on your syllabus, this quote. Is it not?
Maybe it was, it
Yes.
definitely was.
Most definitely it was.
I don't remember.
Continue. Most definitely.
Where is it, Lily?
The quote, it's in the last paragraph.
Last paragraph, yes. But what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. Framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, greatest difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. A dependence on the people is no doubt the primary control on government. But experience has taught mankind the necessity of auxiliary precautions, okay? So your auxiliary precautions are separation of powers, okay? And checks and balances, okay? So each branch is given specific roles, specific powers, and also each branch is given the ability to the key word here, guys, is the ability to restrain the other two branches. I mentioned this earlier. Block vice with vice. A system of mutual frustration. Okay? This is the way it's designed to prevent encroachments by government. Okay? So that's pretty simple stuff, right? That's basic. And then we get to Madison, number 54. And the main topic here is
Slaveries and their relation.
The property.
okay. What we any thoughts on what you read here? Like,
I think he's just trying to like please as many people as he can, almost.
He's just explaining that something, that this had to happen so that the southern states would.
do you think he, but in his writing, he acknowledges the evil of what's going on?
Yes.
I think a little bit, yeah. I mean, which is good, right? I mean, we hope that the recognizing, huh? Yeah. Yeah, at the very bottom of page 47 there. The federal Constitution therefore decides with great propriety on the case of our slaves when it views them in the mixed character of a person's and of property. This is in fact their true character. It is the character bestowed on them by the laws which they live, and will not be denied that these are the proper criterion, because it's only under the pretext that the laws have transformed the Negroes into subjects of property, and in that place has disputed them in the computation of numbers. And it is admitted that if the laws were to restore the rights which have been taken away, so there you go. I mean, it's acknowledging their rights have been taken away, right? To me, that's big, that recognition, okay? Then the Negroes can no longer be refused an equal share of representation with other inhabitants. Right? That opens the door a little bit. You know what I mean? I like that, okay? It may be replied perhaps the slaves are not included in the estimate of representatives in any of the states possessing them. They neither vote themselves nor increase the votes of their masters. Upon what principle then ought they to be taken in the federal estimate of representation? In rejecting them altogether, the Constitution would in this respect have followed the very laws which had been appealed to as the proper guide. So, in truth, a peculiar case, let the compromising expedient of the Constitution be mutually adopted, which regards them as inhabitants, but as debased by servitude below the equal level of free inhabitants, which regards the slave as divested of 2/5 the man, which is just sad. Okay, to see this in a founding document, which is very important to us, regarding a human being, to divest them of 2/5 of a human being. This is sad. Okay, and I think there is a tone with Madison here that is sorrowful when you read this. I think there is sorrow here. Okay, it certainly makes me sad. All right, number 78. Hamilton's back at it. And what is he talking about?
Judiciary branch.
The judicial branch, or the judiciary. What about it?
Yes. So it needs to have, it needs to protect it from getting over.
Okay, so like lifetime appointments. Lifetime appointments means what?
There for
You're
life.
there forever.
Once you're appointed, you're there.
Yeah, so whoever appoints them and approves them, which the president appoints them, the Senate approves them, yes, they are no longer bound to them, are they? They are not bound to any faction. They are bound to the law and the Constitution, yes? They're independent. You like that? Do you think we should elect our judges?
No.
You were thinking like to elect them?
I was.
To be elected?
No, I would not. No.
You want to be appointed?
Yes.
Do we ever appoint bad judges?
Yes.
Can you kick them off?
No.
Unless they violate, high crimes and
We
misdemeanors,
just add more seats.
pack the court.
If
We're
you-
not doing that.
But if you control,
Biden's the house answer if you want.
you're the president and you control the Senate. You just
Yeah.
attack the House, or attack the or
Sounds a bit dictatorial to me. Sounds like one branch of government trying to take over another branch of government.
What are you talking about?
Three words.
Now, y'all ever heard of this?
Marbury versus Madison.
1803, and it set the precedence for what?
Judicial review.
Good, you people are smart. All right, judicial review. Now, judicial review is not specifically mentioned in the Constitution. So up until 1803, it didn't exist, but they used this paper, Federalist number 78, to justify judicial review in Marbury versus Madison, yes?
Yes.
Hence the importance of the Federalist Papers. Thanks, guys, you did good.